Now we move on to session 8 of our faculty development program. The topic of this session is Economics of Sustainable Development, to be delivered by Dr. Ghosh. Our distinguished speaker for this evening, Mr. Ghosh, a renowned economist, academic, and researcher of international repute. Dr. Ghosh is a fellow of the Ryoshi Sasakawa Young Leaders Fellowship Fund of the Tokyo Foundation and a former Watro NW postdoctoral fellow in the Netherlands. He has held prestigious academic and research associations with leading global institutions, including Jadavpur University, the University of Sussex, the University of New South Wales, and Utrecht University. Currently, Dr. Ghosh is serving as partner and lead researcher at Global Change Research, Kolkata, where he continues to make significant contributions to the field of sustainability transitions and policy-oriented research. His expertise spans economics of sustainable development, financial economics, and small business economics. Over the years, he has worked with numerous national and international organizations such as the Asian Development Bank, UNIDO, UNDP, DFID, PwC, Ernst & Young, CRISIL, CII, and many more. In addition to his remarkable research contributions, Dr. Ghosh has also enriched academia as a visiting faculty at prestigious institutions, including IIFT, IIM Shillong, IIT Kharagpur, Vinod Gupta School of Management, and several others. His strong academic foundation, with a PhD in economics from Jadavpur University and an MBA from IIM Kolkata, has further strengthened his ability to bridge the gap between theory, practice, and policy in the realm of sustainable development. We are truly privileged to have Dr. Ghosh here. Sir, kindly deliver your sport lecture.
Yeah. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for the generous introduction.
Thank you so much.
Basically, let me just share the screen. Just a second.
Make him co-host.
Okay, is the screen, is my PowerPoint visible?
No,
Yes,
sir.
no. Great.
Yes, sir.
It is visible.
Yes, sir, it is visible.
It is visible. Great, great. Okay, so yes. Great. I hope the PowerPoint is visible. Very good evening to all my colleagues here. I have I really do not know whether the listeners are all from economics, and economics, like any other subject, has its own technicalities. So rather than focusing on economics of sustainable development, we shall talk about sustainable development and sustainability transitions. Why I added these sustainability transitions is basically, I understand that, am I audible? Am I audible to everybody?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Okay, great. Because my connection is, I'm not too sure, so I'll just keep on asking this question. So please don't mind. Please bear with me. So rather than focusing on the technicalities of economics as we practice, we shall be talking about sustainable development and sustainability transitions. We will understand a new concept which emerged in, of course, in 1930s, 1940s. The whole idea was propounded by an economist, but later on it has been taken over and continued by technologists, particularly engineers and also historians, who kind of, work on the history of technology. And sustainability transitions is a major kind of, field of study today, particularly in policy studies. And we shall see how economics of sustainable development can become a challenge for sustainability transitions. So, with that, we shall delve into the rest of the kind of, my presentation. I plan to talk for 1 hour or something like that. And then probably if you have any questions or if you have any comments or if you have any counter points, because I mean, we all believe, we are all from academia, we all believe that points should have counterpoints and then only new research, new ideas, new theories develop. Uh, just a sec. Yeah. So, sustainable development. We often come across this word, sustainable development. And what does it actually mean, sustainable development? Let's go back to, to mid 1940s. So, Second World War ended in 1945 and then started the period of Reconstruction. If we remember that in the Second World War, most countries were affected. And very interestingly, a lot of new countries were born. For example, India or most of the South Asian countries, Pakistan, Indonesia, then African countries, for example, Ethiopia and others. A lot of countries were born during when the Second World War ended. Then the intervening period, 1950s and 1960s, this was called the period of reconstruction of the world, reconstruction of the economy. New economies had to be kind of, had to be planned. So most of us, we know that history. But all these years after the Second World War, uh, you know, I mean, there, everybody meant that if a nation has high growth, what is growth? Economic growth is basically high GDP. If the GDP, we often come across this word, gross domestic product. Now, if the gross domestic product increases, then people believe that it means higher welfare to people. What is welfare? Because all states, most of the states, unlike North Korea, let's say, these are welfare states. They call themselves welfare states. Welfare states is the well-being of people, right? For example, how many people are poor? How many people are accessing education, health? All these parameters are basically welfare parameters. So people believe that if there is economic growth, there is economic welfare. 1960s onwards, there came a set of challenges. I was talking about points and counterpoints, thesis and antithesis, right? So some of the wonderful books came out. For example, Silent Spring, then The Limits to Growth. This is a wonderful book. I would request all of you to go through these books whenever you get time. These are available online also and offline. Then in 1972, two economists, later both of them got Nobel Prize, Paul Samuelson and William Nordhaus, they asked three fundamental questions. That, well, the economists, they asked the questions like this. The economies are growing fine, but if they want to increase the welfare of the people, then they must answer these three questions. What to produce, how to produce, and for whom to produce. What to produce? I mean, do we produce, I mean, uh, 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 suppose, let's think of an economy like Colombia, right, or Mexico. They produce a lot of narcotics. Now, do we call that growth? Very important. So what to produce? What are the choices? What are the selection of goods and services we produce? How to produce? Here came the concept of pollution and also depleting natural resources. If we are developing at the cost of nature, let's think of coal or LNG. It takes millions of years to produce 1 kg of coal, but it takes a few minutes to lose that resource of coal. So how to produce? What should be the technology? Should it be resource depleting technology or resource conserving technology? Should it be polluting technology or environment friendly technology? And of course, for whom to produce? Basically, the concept of last mile connectivity. Are we catering? Is the economic catering to the people who need, people who are poor, people let's think of India. India is a large country. Now, are we producing for the last person in the line? Right. So these are questions. So these questions started gaining momentum, and the concept of what is development? Development is basically increase in welfare. What is growth? Growth is basically increase in GDP. So people started becoming aware. Before this, of course, growth and development paradigms had started, but the concept of sustainable development started from the 1960s. I hope I am audible, right? Am I?
Yes,
I
sir,
hope I'm
you're
audible.
audible.
Okay, great. Sorry, ma'am. Sorry to disturb
Yes.
you, but yeah, yeah. So then in 1987, there came a wonderful report, uh, which is called Our Common Future, right? Our Common Future, which defined sustainable development. How did it define sustainable development? Development which meets the need of the present without compromising the ability of the future generations to meet their own needs. Very important. If we are eating away or weeding out the resources that could have been used by the future generations, then the development may be happening today, but it will cease to happen tomorrow or day after tomorrow. That is, we are leaving nothing for our posterity. And this was termed as basically sustainable development. Following 1987, so whatever had started in the late 60s, after 20 years, it was fructifying. In 1922, there was this Rio conference. I'm sure most of us are aware of this. It was participated by 178 nations, and they said that the future goal of the world will be sustainable development. India was also a participant to this Rio conference in 1992. Now, what is sustainable development? This is the famous kind of, Venn diagram kind of a thing. It has three pillars: environment, economy, society. Right? So, a development pathway or a development mechanism that delivers economic growth, economic well-being, protects environment, promotes environment, and creates social harmony, community feeling. This development is called sustainable development. So it's not just economics, it is not just environment, it is not also just society. Unlike, if we think of these three things, for example, those of you who are slightly aware, for example, the Gandhian philosophy was kind of, let us, even if we remain poor, doesn't matter, but we must protect environment or the society. So that was one kind of a thinking. Then there was another kind of a thinking by Karl Marx, who talked about social well-being, but well, economics, we don't care. I mean, who cares? Or environment, he never talked about. On the other hand, economics has always thought of increasing profits, increasing output, increasing income, and all kinds of things. But in the 1990s came this wonderful concept called sustainable development, and all these 178 nations across the world, they pledged that they would follow the pathway towards sustainable development. Uh, then came uh, uh, 2000, right? Most of us were there. So September 2000, this was basically the Millennium Development Goal, that mankind has made mistake in the last millennium. The new millennium, what are the goals? So the goals were, there were 8 goals. First one was eradicating extreme poverty and hunger. This is a social dimension, also an economic dimension. Achieving universal primary education. Because, I mean, in 2000, if we look back, in the world, there were countries, of course, there still are countries where education, I mean, people do not have primary education, right? I mean, there are, even in Indian states also, there is a disparity of education delivery. So, second goal was education. Then, third goal was gender equality. Man, woman are all same creatures of the same planet, right? So gender equity or gender equality, reduction of child mortality, fourth goal. Fifth goal was improving maternal health. Because if the mother improves, mother is well, the child will be well. Prenatal and postnatal stages, pre-birth and post-birth stages. Combating HIV/AIDS, because those of us who are there, I really do not know the age profile of the listeners, but many of us may be gray-haired people, and we have seen that HIV/AIDS was a menace across the world. So combating HIV/AIDS, malaria, and other diseases, ensuring environmental sustainability, and finally developing a global partnership for development. Countries should not fight, there must be peace and all kinds of things. In September 2000, this international summit at New York, these 189 countries, India was also a participant. These 189 countries, they all pledged, and what was the outcome? The Millennium Development Goals, and the countries decided that 2000 to 2015 will be the time frame during which the world will try to achieve all these 8 goals. So this was the Millennium Development Goal. And then in 2015, many of us remember that, 2015, again, the heads of the states met in Paris. This was the Paris Conference. And they found that although the world had taken a target to meet these goals, there are still shortfalls. So the international leaders, they all said that we need to rework, we need to correct our mistakes, and we need to make the world a better place, right? And they took 17 targets. Remember, those of us who are aware of this literature, you can also go to UN website or some other Government of India website, and these are their targets. Very important thing is that all these have numbers. These are not just statements. They have numbers, right? For example, 0% poverty, let's say, or not more than 2% poverty, right? 2% of the people should not be living below the poverty line, something of that sort. So all countries, depending on their resources, depending on their situation, they have taken the goals. But there are now 17 goals. So we started with the concept of sustainable development, and then basically the world understood the need for following the path of sustainable development. And in 2015 to 2030, there we are now following the pathway towards sustainable development goals. Uh, India in 2015 was a signatory, and the prime minister of the country had gone and signed the pledge, right? So most of the leading, I mean, most of the countries in the world became signatories to these sustainable development goals. So what is sustainable development? Development in such a way that we leave enough for the posterity. We give them an equal chance. And what is sustainable development? Sustainable development has three pillars. It talks about society, it talks about economy, and it talks about environment. Now, uh, during all these years, there was not all these years, I think last 100 years, there was another storyline that was emerging. Very interesting. And this storyline came from the natural sciences. So far, the discussions that we were having, these were more of social science. But 100 years back or 150 years back from, I mean from now, uh, there was another storyline. There was in 1824, a French physicist, Joseph Fourier. He talked about the greenhouse gas effect. We all know about that, right? What is greenhouse gas effect? Or greenhouse effect, right? Not greenhouse gases, greenhouse effect, yeah. Then in 1861, John Tyndall, he was also a physicist. He identified some of the gases that might cause the world Earth to become a greenhouse. We have all seen greenhouse in nurseries. It's a protected kind of an environment where the heat is trapped, the moisture is trapped, and all kinds of things are there. So it's not the natural environment, but a kind of a protected micro environment, right? There are, I mean, those of you who are from natural science can probably explain the greenhouse better than me. Also, in 1891, this Arrhenius, he basically talked about how CO2, carbon dioxide, could probably increase the temperature of the atmosphere. And then, kind of, 1891 to 1895, there was this geologist, Swedish geologist, who talked about how coal mines could contribute to creation of greenhouse gases that could probably change the temperature and other things. We will come to that in a little while. Now, all these were, if we look at these milestones, I'm not saying I've just given an indicative list, not the exhaustive one. But they say that it is human beings who could probably worsen the environment of the earth. So basically, these activities of human beings that could probably create a problem in the environment, are called anthropogenic activities. And there is historical and there is technological proof that these anthropogenic activities started once the Industrial Revolution started. What are the anthropogenic activities? For example, mining, for example, generation of power, for example, consumption of petrochemicals, or using automobiles. So as technology developed, as technology contributed to our well-being, the economic well-being, to the aspirations of mankind, simultaneously, the physics and chemistry that the technology involved, that resulted in byproducts. As long as I drive a car, There will be carbon dioxide, there will be carbon monoxide, there will be sulfur dioxide and nitrous oxide and all kinds of things, right? And they contribute to worsening of the environment. So, in 1992, we recall the Rio summit. There, all these international leaders, they recognized that climate change is one of the most important threats facing mankind. So if we have to develop in a sustainable manner, we need to address climate change. So sustainable development and climate change are, they are different concepts but married to each other. Without addressing climate change, we cannot probably achieve sustainable development, right? So that's the interesting storyline I wanted to share with you. So am I still audible? I hope I am audible. Can one of
Hello,
you please
sir.
confirm?
Yes, sir, you are audible.
Okay,
Sir, but the
clear.
slides
Yeah.
are not changing. Slides are not
Slides are
changing.
not changing. Oh,
Yes.
come on. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. You should have told me. Sir. Yes. Now the slides are changing or they are not changing?
Yes, sir, now they are changing.
Okay. So we talked about all these things. We talked about the these then we talked about the Bratland report, Our Common Future. We remember. Then we know the three pillars of sustainable development. We have discussed about it. The Millennium Development Goals that were taken in 2000, the 8 goals. And then, of course, in 2015, when the world was taking a stock, they took 17 goals that are called SDGs. So first we had the MDGs and then the SDGs. We parallelly talked about climate change. Yes, anybody wants to say something? Yeah. Okay. Great. So now we have a little idea about climate change and sustainable development. Now, what is climate change? Very simple. There is our. Can one of you please mute yourself? I mean, otherwise, Xiaomi. I don't. Somebody is using the phone. Yeah. So, what is this greenhouse effect and what is climate change? I'm talking from a layman's point of view. I am not neither a physicist nor a chemist. Madam had said that I am basically a student of economics. So there is this earth and there is the sun, right? And what happens is the solar radiation reaches the earth. Uh, Part of it is absorbed by the surface and the oceans, and part is reflected back. Right? Now, we see our Earth, and then we see a band. This band is basically the atmosphere, right? If the concentration of the greenhouse gases, what are the greenhouse gases? Carbon dioxide is a greenhouse gas, methane is a greenhouse gas, right? Uh, then nitrous oxide is a greenhouse gas. So all these are greenhouse gases. So there are a lot of other greenhouse gases, you know better than I do. So they basically form a cover around the earth. So what happens as a result is that the way the God had or the nature had made it, that solar radiation will reach earth, get absorbed, and get reflected back. This process is vitiated. What happens is the radiation comes in but cannot go out. And this gives rise to two main important problems. One, the temperature, and the other is precipitation. Right? So, and with temperature, a lot of other things start happening. For example, with temperature, there is a glacial meltdown, right? With kind of, with abnormal temperature and also atmospheric pressure, the cloud formations start changing. Very recently, we had these cloud bursts in Dharali and other places, right? So these are the consequences of climate change. Mind you, the scientists, the natural scientists have been warning us for last 150 years. We have not listened to it. That's our problem, right? But the natural scientists who work with all these things, the physicists, the chemists, the what do they call it? The meteorologists, they have been warning us. So climate change is basically the layer of greenhouse gases that are formed around the Earth, which basically disturbs the natural way the sunlight comes, gets absorbed and gets reflected back. The excess sunlight gets reflected back. The sunlight gets, actually the radiation gets trapped within that greenhouse, right? Now, we talked about our anthropogenic activities. Anthropogenic means by human beings. Now, why this? So that is climate change. This is climate change. Now, why it can happen? We probably have understood that as long as the greenhouse gas layer will be around the Earth, it will be there. This climate change will happen, right? How the greenhouse gas layer is created? Part natural, part anthropogenic. Now the question is, are we really emitting more? So there is this kind of measured CO2 and non-CO2 gases from 1700 to 2000, right? Now you may ask that how these have been collected. These have been collected. I mean, these have been collected through a lot of, techniques of, there is carbon deposits and all kinds of things. I'm not an expert in that, but so we take it as given. So human beings are actually emitting more as the number of cars are increasing, as the factories are increasing in number, right? There is a whole lot of emission. And very interestingly, one molecule of carbon dioxide, the moment it is emitted, it remains in the atmosphere for approximately 99 years. So, methane and all, so the beauty of these greenhouse gases, they are long-lived gases. Those of if you are, if anybody is there from meteorology or whatever, for example, ozone is basically a short-lived gas, right? But carbon dioxide is a long-living gas molecule, right? Now, the question is, fine, this is up to 2000. What happens in the future, next 100 years? Are we expected to emit more? We means the entire world, human beings. So here are basically, if nothing is done by the countries, by the world, then we have the business as usual scenario. The the curve, which is the kind of, which is the highest vertical distance. And we shall reach an increase of 4.5 degrees Celsius, right? 4.5 degrees Celsius. Now, INDC, I am not getting into this INDC, intended nationally determined contributions. Let's not get into it. If countries act the way they have planned to in 2015, then probably we will get something between 3.3 to 3.5 degree change in temperature. Average, we are talking of global average. There's a map which is not there probably in this presentation, which shows that what will be the impact of temperature in different parts of the world. And India, from a kind of, orange kind of a part, it is moving towards a deep, deep, deep red part, right? So for India, it is almost like 7 degrees change, right? So if the countries do as planned in these 100 years, already 25 years have passed, then also we have 3.5 degrees Celsius or 3.3 degrees Celsius. The what the experts, what the scientists, they recommend is a 2 degree path. That means more strict kind of, more strict kind of actions. The question is whether the world, whether each of us are prepared to do that, right? So this is basically, so we have emitted more as we have seen, and we are expected to emit more. What could it mean is if we emit more, we are in reinforcing that greenhouse and we are falling into the trap of high temperature and erratic precipitation. Now, what are the kind of, what are the observed climate change impacts at global scale? In India, we can all see the summers have increased. When I was a young child, I knew that there are 6 seasons. Now I know there are only 3 seasons: winter, summer, and monsoon. All of us, those of us who are from the eastern part of the country, when we were young, did we see so many cyclones? No, not really. Every year we see that. Now every year we see 2, 3, 4 cyclones in the Bay of Bengal. Right? So basically, climate change, if we ask ourselves that what are the impacts or what are the observed evidences of climate change? Yes, the temperatures on the whole have increased. Precipitation is erratic. The rainfall that was supposed to be occurring over a span of, let's say, 3 months or 4 months, now can happen in 24 hours. We have seen in Punjab, we have seen in Uttarakhand, we have seen in Himachal Pradesh, we have seen in Bihar, right? Also, a very important kind of, impact is the glacial meltdown. This is the left-hand panel, that the glacial, ice cap that we see, right? Sea ice. That was in 1979, and in 2003 we have the right panel where we see that most of it has melted. Look at the density of the picture, you will see, right? Now, what it means is the volume of water in the oceans are increasing.
Sir, you are muted. Sir, unmute yourself. Sir, your audio is not coming.
Sir, please unmute you.
Sir, you are not audible.
Am I audible? Can you please confirm?
Yes,
Yes,
yes.
sir. Now you are audible.
Yes,
Okay,
sir,
great.
you are audible.
Okay, thank you. I think my Bluetooth was also connected to the phone. Yeah. So let's move back. Now, I hope that you can all see the screen. So I am not going into this kind of, into this graphs and all kinds of things. So, but, I mean, global average temperature is increasing and has increased and will continue to increase. And there is a erraticity of this precipitation across the world. Now, what are the impacts in India? This is basically the estimates by Government of India that sea level rise. What are the impacts? One very important thing is the sea level rise, right? Which poses a threat to the coastal agriculture and settlement, including lives and property, right? So, for example, Diamond Harbour. Diamond Harbour is the is basically south of Kolkata on Bay of Bengal, confluence of river Hooghly and the Bay of Bengal, right? Where it is rising at the rate of 5.74 millimeter per year. So, I mean, what happens to the people out there? What happens to the agriculture over there? What happens to the all kinds of settlements? So sea level rise is a big threat, and particularly to a country like India, which is a peninsula. If we think of the our two coasts, this problem will be there for lot of us, right? Erratic monsoons, which is kind of affecting crop productivity. The crop yields are declining, and we can all see it when we go to the market. Every second day, we find that the prices of vegetables have gone up. When we ask the people why, this is the season of parwal, this is the season of bhindi. Why should we buy bhindi at 80 rupees a kg? They say that what? There was standing water and therefore there was crop loss. So if we look at the productivity, output per acre or hectare or whatever, per unit of land, that is going down. On the other hand, for India, we have an increasing population. So there is always a food scarcity because of this crop losses and decline in productivity. I was working in Punjab and I was made to, I mean, kind of, the agricultural scientists, they were explaining that if we look at wheat, the inflorescence, the number of grains that are there in the inflorescence are declining. And the weight of each grain is declining. So the quantum of wheat or quantity of wheat that we get per unit area of land, that is declining. So on one side, we have the food shortage. On the other side, we have the decrease in farmers' income. And we have a hungry population. This is the impact of climate change. Then water stress and declining in freshwater supply. There are places in the country where there is drought. Then increased frequency of floods, droughts, storms, and all kinds of things. These are called extreme events. Now, the moment the extreme events start increasing their frequency increases, we have losses with respect to life. We have losses with respect to property. So these are climate-induced impacts, economic impacts. We do not know which one of us become a victim of these climate-induced losses. Then very interestingly, new allergens and pathogens. For example, malaria was unknown in Uttarakhand. But for the last 10 or 15 years, some parts of Uttarakhand are experiencing malaria. Because the temperature was such that this, this Aedes or whatever, that mosquito, that could not flourish in Uttarakhand. But now as the temperature has gone up, so it has become its natural habitat. So climate change, it's a natural phenomena, but contributed to by human beings, by our activities, because that greenhouse gas. But what are the impacts? Impacts are our life, our food, our property, disease, everything. So that's the beauty of climate change, right? And it is affecting entire India, entire world. No country can escape from this climate change. So I was telling you some of these are some of the kind of real life stories. So if we go to Sangrur or those parts of Punjab, of course, this year Punjab has a different problem. Whether it is cotton, whether it is peas, mutton, whether it is sugarcane or wheat, the yield is decreasing. Come to the eastern part of the country, Bihar, Bengal, Orissa, every monsoon, the productivity decreases because there is standing water. This year it has happened in Bihar. When the floods came, the paddy was ready for being cultivated. Almost. And I understand that there has been a lot of loss. The losses are yet to be assessed. Same thing happening in Himachal Pradesh, Jammu Kashmir, apples. Suddenly there's a hailstorm, snow, frost, and the apples are dying. Not the tree is dying, but the fruits are dying. Fruits are perishing, basically. Now look at the case of peas. I'm sure all of us have peas. What is the problem? The problem is the peas are yellowing very fast. Because peas grow in a certain temperature. When the winter temperature goes up, what happens is the outer the cover of the pea, the cover of the pod, that starts yellowing. And when the farmer brings it to the market, it fetches low price. Sundarbans, there are storm surges. Storm surges is such a phenomena where a lot of intrusion of seawater takes place. And once seawater comes in, it is full of salt. The fertility of the land is lost. So they cannot cultivate the next year or maybe some years after that storm surge, right? So these are problems. These are problems, and these are all induced by climate change. Yeah, this is what. Am I audible to all of you? Can one of you please confirm? I have this constant fear of being lost.
Yes, sir, you are audible.
Yes, sir, yes,
Okay.
right. Yes.
So this is something which I was kind of referring to, right? Yeah, look at the first one, change in the surface temperature, right? So look at India, you can see India, and what is India becoming, right? This right panel is the left panel is 1986 to 2005, and the right panel is 2081 to 2100. Now, our problem is, I mean, like on a philosophical note, our problem is, well, I won't leave, but my next generation will be there. Our kids will be there. A kid who is being born today will definitely see 2081 or 2100. I may be dead, but that kid will be alive. Once human beings start thinking about this, then we are progressing in the path of sustainable development. So the question is, I mean, so climate change and sustainable development are interrelated. Without one, the other cannot take place. So the question is, what do we do for developing sustainability in the face of climate change? Because if we have to develop sustainably, then we have to develop sustainable solutions. And if there is climate change, what do we do? Now, can we disregard the problem? No. It is happening, it will continue to happen. It will affect my child, or it will affect our children, right? Can we reverse the process? No. The emissions that we have done post-industrial, that industrialization, post-industrial revolution, it cannot be reversed. Can we stop using petrochemicals? No. Can we stop using our cars? No. Can we stop producing in the factories? No. So we cannot reverse. Can we decrease the levels of emission? Yes, if we want to. Can we act individually or in groups to decrease emission? Yes. We can act individually. We can act collectively. For example, that all of us, I don't know how many people are there, probably 180 or 181 people are there, all of us. This is one way to decrease emission. I attend FDPs. Physically, I attend FDPs. I mean, this is the first FDP I am attending online. This has definitely decreased emission. There is something called carbon footprint. Think if we were all traveling from different places and reaching a spot, the level of activity would be increasing. The level of activity in the sense the emission. But here, since we are all stationed at where we are and we are connecting, well, yes, we are kind of, we are acting collectively. Can we stop the loss of life and property because of extreme events? The storms, cyclones, typhoons, and all kinds of things? No, no. Can we decrease the loss of life and property? Yes. How we can, provided we build the houses, we call it adaptation. I'll come to that. So provided we make our designs right, then we probably can stop the loss of life and property. If those hotels were not built on the banks of river Bias, so many lives would not have been lost. But we have built it. Can we protect our children? Yes, provided we act. We start acting from today, from this moment. Right? Does small changes matter? Yes, they matter, but we need a radical change. We need a transition. We need a shift of thinking process. Right? So the question is, how do we abate climate change? Abate means reduce the impacts. So there are two ways, mitigation and adaptation. What is mitigation? Mitigation is lowering the level of emissions. For example, a thermal power plant, it emits a lot of carbon dioxide. But a hydropower plant, it does not emit. So, so what is mitigation? Technological solutions or behavioral changes that reduce the level of emissions. What is adaptation? Adaptation are again technology or behavioral solutions. What do? They protect the lives and property. Whether we want or we don't want, these extreme events, floods, droughts, cloud bursts, glacial meltdown will continue to occur. Now, do we have technological solutions to reduce the extent of losses? There are technological solutions. How fast we adopt, that is the challenge, right? So technology, many of you may be engineers. Engineers have done a wonderful work. They have come up with all kinds of solutions that contributes to mitigation as well as adaptation. And of course, there is another important thing, protect natural capital. That is the natural resources that are there. We have to protect for our children. Because it takes, always let us remember this, that it takes millions of years to form a kg of coal, but it takes a few minutes to burn that coal. It takes hundreds of years to have a tree, full grown tree. It takes a few minutes to cut that tree into logs. So that's it. So what is transition? Transition is a radical or novel change. A change of, we call it regime shift, change of routine, the way we work. So it's a complete transformation, like from, prehistoric man to the modern man. There has been a transition from that hunter man to this AI kind of a man. There's been a transition. The way our predecessors worked and the way we work are different. Or think from this beauty of the formation of a butterfly. From a pupa, it's a full-grown, beautiful butterfly. This is transition. So, radical and novel changes that could lead to a transformation in the ways we do our work, produce goods and services, carry out businesses, and lead our lives. So, we need complete overhauling of our thinking. So, what are the changes? Changes are in technology. Think in India, till recently we were using petrol or diesel fueled car. We have started using EV, complete change. in technology. See, in some cities where there is mass rapid transit system, like a metro railway or a BRTS, mass rapid transit system, people stop using cars and board onto buses. So, if the bus was not carrying so much of people, then it would emit the same gas, but now it is getting distributed between so many people. Number one, number two, that I have kept my car at home. It is saving emission. It is helping the world to decrease emissions. So that's behavior, business process, etc. So when these transitions generate considerable social gains, economic gains, and environmental gains, we call it we call that sustainability transitions. So starting from the 1990s, when the concept of sustainable development came, the question was what could be technological solutions that could lead to sustainability transitions, that is sustainability gains. And when we say economic gains, social gains, and the environmental gains, right? So this is transition. This idea was propounded by Schumpeter, Joseph Schumpeter, in 1930s, but it has gained momentum since the 1990s, actually. And this is, although it originated, it was propounded by an economist, but now it is being carried forward by the technologists and the historians of technology, right? I have had opportunity to work with some of them. So yeah, so this is basically the transition curve. The Our old way of thinking has to finish now, and a new way of doing things has to emerge now. This is basically the transition curve. Initially, we may have fear, frustrations, and all kinds of things, but then if our technology, if our adopting the practices of adopting that technology and adapting ourselves to the technology are good, then we have a new beginning. So how can we act? We can act as individual, we can act as a family, right? So what can we do? We can change ourselves. Let's not be greedy. Mahatma Gandhi had said that the world has everything for man's need, but it has nothing for man's greed. So, less consumption, because consumption means basically more resource use. More resource use may mean more emissions. More emission may mean more depletion of natural capital stock, right? We were talking of carbon footprint, so basically, I'm not going into detail, but what is important is that sustainable development, climate change, adaptation, mitigation, these are realities. And as a society, as individuals, collectively, individually, societally, we have to act, and the nations have to act. Now, what are the decision support system we have in environment? We check whether we have been able to reduce the emissions, because emissions are the root cause of climate change and consequent loss of economic welfare. Have we been able to conserve the natural resources? And biodiversity. This is another important point. Many of you know biodiversity, ecology. There are different branches of this. Economics is just one part. There are different branches. Biodiversity, that comes under ecology, right? In economy, who gains by how much? Is it a gain for a few people or is it a gain for all? Is it a gain for us or is it a gain for our future generations? Very important question. We want to be happy. Does it mean we don't want our children to be happy? So maybe it's a better idea that because they will be happy, we reduce our consumptions now. Kind of those things. Who loses and by how much? Another important question. If somebody gains, well, does somebody lose? I'm not going into the economics of it because then it brings me back to externalities and things like that, which are little technical concepts. Society, as a society, are we prepared? Is everybody ready to participate in this change? Very important question. You and me may be prepared, but the others may not be. Then the transition does not take place. So, do we really want a sustainable societal system? That is a society which will have the societal gains, the economic gains, and the environmental gains. Do we put a lot of stress on the health and happiness of the members of the society? Very important. Or are we thinking for our own benefit, individual benefits, and forgetting the societal benefits? So these are important questions in these three pillars that I'm saying this from the literature, the way that if the literature is evolving. So we have all the measures of this and we have techniques. We means those who work in this sustainability transitions. Now we are almost towards the end. Now very interesting is many of you are natural scientists or engineers, and many of us work in laboratories. I'm talking of those, natural science laboratories. If we think today, in India, there are so many laboratories in universities, in colleges, in companies. Now, these new technological solutions that emerge are called innovations. Now, today, on 11th of September, probably millions of innovations have taken place in our country. But the question is, how many of them will reach the people? Very few. Because some of the innovations, well, they were done with academic bent of mind and probably not replicable or commercially replicable. Some of them could be good solutions, but may not appeal to the customers. So this is a wonderful kind of, kind of a model of sustainability transition, where towards the what is that called, west, southwest, we find a lot of innovations who are competing among themselves. And then there is one or two or three innovations that emerge as being somewhat somewhat defining innovation and starts challenging the regime. In the recent times, we have this artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence is not a new thing. I remember in 2001 or 2, when I was a student of MBA, we had a subject called artificial neural network. So 25 years back, it was there. But the way we see these solutions, let's say something like the Grok or this Copilot or whatever, the way we see this, these have appealed to us, the users. And the moment they have appealed to us, they are threatening the existing ways that we were working. So this is what is called the niche of innovations. Some of them become dominant and start threatening the existing rules and routine. Now, if they are powerful and if we make them powerful, then they overcome the resistance given by the existing routine or regime and become the way of life tomorrow. Think when the smartphones came, they were made, they challenged the way that human beings do their work. They challenged the laptops, they challenged the conventional phones, they challenged a lot of other things. And today it has become a part of our life and it has redefined the way we do our banking, we do our shopping, we do our messaging, and all kinds. We see our movies, all kinds of things. So this is what is called uh, managing sustainability transitions. There may be innovations, there may be technology solutions, but how do we reinforce those innovations? So this is what is called strategic niche management. So what are the pillars of strategic niche management? Articulation. How do we articulate or how do we sound out the promises that the innovations have? Because we have to reach the customer. Innovation itself in the lab is nothing. Innovation, when it is used by its customers, the users, then innovations have their powers multiply. So we have to be careful that if we think that we have good innovation, we must articulate its promise. So how do we do that? How do we protect it? Protect in the sense, for example, if the cost of that innovation or the price, if it is too much costly for the customer, then the customer will not probably own that or not adopt that innovation. So how do you protect it? How do we make it affordable? For that, we need to work ourselves. For that, we need to talk to the government. For example, think of this EV. Government has given it a GST holiday or has lowered the GST or something. So this is protection. In order that I may switch from my conventional fuel driven car to EV, government has reduced the tax. So this is protection. How has the government done it? Government was told by the EV manufacturers that, look, otherwise the cost will be very high and people will be discouraged to buy this product. Networks very important. How do we create networks? Because everything is network. If we have to reach the customers far from our lab, then we have to travel through networks. Not just physical networks, but also information networks. That look, there you get this product, or this product has these kinds of benefits. The economics, the cost of it, the price of it, very important. Because every time the users want to adopt the innovation, in economics we say they do a cost benefit analysis. If the cost is too high and the benefits are low, they will probably not use it. And very important is learning. There are two kinds of learning, first order learning and second order learning. I'm sure all of us know that. This is more second order learning. Second order learning is how do we correct ourselves? Every time we make a mistake in protecting our innovation, an innovation, in articulating the promises of an innovation, in designing the network of that innovation, we may make mistakes. But the question is, how do we correct ourselves? We say a brilliant recovery, a path or a plan for brilliant recovery. We will make mistakes. So the long and short of it is technology has a lot of solutions to address climate change and to aid to sustainable development. Where I mean, and by technology, I don't mean just kind of this transport or buildings or no. Even in agriculture, there are technological interventions. In waste management, there are technological interventions. Right? Technology has solutions, and technologies are working. How do economists or others they help? If an innovation has promises for delivering sustainability gains, then how to better or package it, or rather how to kind of protect it, how to articulate it, how to control its costs and prices, and all kinds of things. So, kind of, I mean, I just finish off with this discussion. For example, this I was working in Nepal, and there is this community rainwater harvesting. Again, this is a technology. It may not look, I mean, there are no machines or anything, but it's a technology. There are these, what are they doing? They are doing very simple thing. They are using the slopes of the hills to control the flow of the water and channel the water into a particular kind of reservoir, and then storing the water for extended use. In between, if those villages where they are using this water for drinking, they are purifying the water. Very interesting. I found this in Nepal. Then this is something from I was working with a group of civil engineers. Many of you may be knowing this. The concept of passive ventilation, right? I mean, passive ventilation and kind of, uh, climate controlled buildings. So it basically kind of, and I mean, I'm not the right person to kind of, explain this, but I'll tell you the concept. It's like the solar path. They calculate the solar path and put the building in such a way and use such materials that most of the radiations that the building walls receive or building roofs receive are radiated. I mean, sorry, are reflected back. The incidence, I mean, they control the incidence of radiation and maximize the reflection or something like that, to use a layman's kind of. Then look at this waste management thing in Aizol. Here also I was working for Asian Development Bank. And, like, kind of, people were using, I mean, people used to, despite the fact that there were all these beans, they were kind of, kind of disposing of the waste along the slopes. And that started increasing the methane emissions. So what then the municipal corporation did was basically collected, transported it back to near to Aizol, I mean Lengpui airport, right, and converted into what you call this vermicomposts. And the fertilizer that was made is suitable for a particular variety of rice that's grown in Mizoram, the sticky rice variety. So kind of, I mean, see, I mean, all these three cases that I saw, these, I told you, this one kind of a community kind of technology adoption. This one is a technology adoption by technocrats. And this is a kind of technology adoption by the bureaucrats, if we may call a municipal corporation, right? So technology is there, but how we use that technology for kind of, protecting the environment, for delivering social gains, and for economic gains. Look at this water example. What is happening? It results in a lot of saving of cost in procurement of water. When we purify this water and make it potable water, the incidence of diseases decrease. That is, the morbidity and mortality decreases, right? Here, we are becoming resource efficient in the sense that such buildings may not require too many air conditioners and air coolers, right? And in this case, as we say, waste to wealth, I am just giving you the Aizawl because here I had worked. There are other cities also. Indore is a wonderful case study. Bhopal is a wonderful case study, right? At least I know these three, right? So I mean, so basically, whether we want or not, climate change is a reality. And sustainable development is our goal. Individually, we cannot do anything. All of us have to think in unison, collectively. We have to work, and then probably we reach our state of the world where our future is, that is, our future generations are protected. So that's all I have to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for your thought-provoking session. Today's session was filled with valuable learnings on economics of sustainable development. Today, sir has very well explained about sustainable development, why we need it, and its goals. He also told about various historical happenings related to sustainable development, also linked the sustainable development with climate change. What are its impact of climate change? There were many real life examples that sir has cited. He also provided various case studies for our better understandings. He also explained why we need to change and how we can change and follow the steps of sustainable development for our better future. Thank you, sir. Now, I ask the participants if they have any questions, they can ask or they can clear their doubts.
I guess there are no questions. And thank you for all your, I mean, those who have listened. I mean, I feel privileged. So, yeah, thank you. I see a lot of messages. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, sir. With this, we formally conclude session 8 of Faculty Development Program. We once again thanks our distinguished experts, all dignitaries and participants for their valuable time and active engagement. Your presence and thoughtful contribution continues to make this FDP a meaningful and enriching journey. We now bring today's session to a close and look forward to welcoming you all again tomorrow for another day of learning and knowledge sharing. Thank you, sir. Thank you all.
Thank
We can end today's session. Thank you. Good night, sir.